So this is the first time I've done this, but Better Questions and Atomic Plan, putting this in both places. So we've got Sam. We're going to talk about, the question is how to delegate. She's got a consultancy around a US-based virtual staffing. So it should be good for the small contractor, small business people. I think it should be valuable. And then we went ahead and talked about a little about Jesus at the end. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Miss Sam, are we live? Yeah, we're recording. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome to the Atomic Construction. I don't know which podcast I'm going to put this one on, just so you know. So we might put them on both for the heck of it. So
cool. Because I was trying to cyberstock and I was like trying to get ready and I'm like, where are we going? I don't know. We'll just kind of go with it.
Well, we had a meeting and you said, have you prayed about it? I'm like, oh, we're going to have to get on Better Questions. But your podcast is in the construction space. I'm like, So yeah, why don't you just take me real quick? I'll give you a quick intro. So you run a type of, and sorry if I butchered this, but a type of virtual assistant, executive, administrative, seems very operationally focused and talent-driven service provider. And I think you shared this with me. You're targeting clients between, I want to say 1 to 10. Was it 1 to 10 or 10 to 50? What's your target client?
As far as like employees, like the size?
$1 million. Or, who's your target? Okay. Yeah, target entrepreneur.
Man. Yeah, I mean, we used to work with companies that were like in that 10 to 50, 10 to 100 million range. And I just like the groove of my super small teams. So we're actually been focusing under 10 million, in some cases even under 2 million. Yeah. And so we'll go from like 1 to 20 employees is like a really great sweet spot. Cause that's where, you haven't done a bunch of HR, you haven't done a bunch of ops, you're still kind of winging it, but you got some success. And you're like just about to lose your shit, Yeah,
there. Dude, you're speaking to my people. I think we talked. Yeah. So, okay. So the business is Auxo, which has significant meaning, which I think is really cool. I think it's Greek, if I got that right.
Yes.
I think it's,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you run Auxo, you run Growth and Action Partners, which I don't know about, and then you have a Construction Trailblazer account. And so that's what I know. Tell me everything I don't know. So take me from the day you were born to this beautiful day that I get to talk to you.
Okay. Well, my one fun fact, like when you do like new groups, and they're like, oh, give an icebreaker. Like, what's a fun fact? I'm like, I'm not a fun person, but my fun fact is that I was born in Germany. I don't speak a lick of German. But my grandfather was an architect for the army. I've got an awesome like Corps of Engineers shirt from him. Anyway, my mom was visiting while she was pregnant with me. I was born in Wiesbaden, which is like kind of southwest, I think, of Frankfurt. I was there for my first year, went to Puerto Rico. My family's from Puerto Rico. That's where my crazy hair comes from. Hopped over to Florida. And then at some point in my adulthood, I was like, Jacksonville is where people go to die and wither. And like, this is not my place. And I came out to Colorado.
Okay, cool. And when was Colorado?
Colorado was 2018. In 2018. Okay, cool. And I'm still not used to the weather.
I was going to say, you're still adjusting to the cold. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So the beauty of me on this podcast is I'm a crappy listener. So grandfather, you said German. Is he a German army? German army architect? Or got it.
He was an architect for the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and he did like 7-8 years in Saudi Arabia. He's probably like I don't feel like I have a lot of role models in my life. He also, he got dementia when I was pretty young. I'd say like 8 or 9. He had like lung cancer, then got dementia and diabetes out of that. So I don't have like a lot of, I think, like mature memories with my grandfather, but he still is like, I think, an awesome role model for me. So all that to say, like, he provided for his family. He, at some point, like, he wanted a better life for his daughters, so my mom and my aunt and his wife, and decided to go into the Army Corps of Engineers. He had like a background teaching calculus, amazing dude. And he traveled the world doing that. So he did like a 7 or 8 stint in Saudi Arabia, helping to design cities there, and then got transferred to Germany before he retired in New York.
And then mom is of what descent?
Both my parents are Puerto Rican. So it's a shame that I don't speak Spanish. It's a real shame, but they're both Puerto Rican. Yeah.
They're both, that's awesome. And they met in Germany. She was visiting from Puerto Rico?
No, oh gosh, that's where we're going to get into some therapy nonsense
Oh
there.
gosh.
And
If
all
it's
honesty,
okay,
but
if you don't
no,
want to talk about it, we don't have to. But I
it's
think your
okay.
story is
It's
quite
okay.
powerful.
Yeah, my mom and dad weren't together at that time when I was born. So I had my two other brothers already existed in the world. As in they were born. They weren't adults. They were I don't know, a year and a half and 3 or 4 when I was born. So anyway, she was taking some time to gather herself and went to go live with her parents and my grandparents in Germany, and I was born there.
Got it. Okay, so
Yeah,
I missed the part. So we're talking about grandfather stuff. So you're
yeah,
born there. All right, cool.
uh-huh.
And then we can skip all the family stuff. I would love to know about the family stuff, and then take me to, I think, maybe whichever of the 3 businesses is the one you want to talk about most. Like, I'm looking for the career
Yeah.
highlights to get to that point.
Yeah. Let's focus on Auxo because Growth and Action Partners has taken a hiatus because Auxo has been so busy that I'm not keeping up with that. And Construction Trailblazers also in the past 10 days I've been doing all my goal setting, and that's taking a bit of a switch, a little bit of a pivot on that. So we'll focus on
I was
Auxo.
riding pivot as you said. I'm like, yeah, pivot. She's doing a pivot.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
And we could dive into that, but we can focus on Auxo. So to break that down, I mean, you hit it really well with like ops and talent. So we solve back office problems. Everything I do is about how do you make business profitable, but still simple and fun. Like I think running a business, if you choose to do that, it should be fun for you. So everything we do is around that and making sure you have the right team members in place for that.
Awesome. And so, just a little bit of background, and I think it's unwise for me. I know you have a little one, 3 little ones, how many kids?
I've got 2 little ones. We've debated a third, but I've got 2. One just turned 6, and the other one is about 3.5. Both boys.
3.5. And what are their names? If you don't want to tell the world, you don't have to, but I like to know.
It's good. Walter and Cooper.
Nice. Walter and Cooper. Hopefully they let us get this conversation done, but and if they don't, we totally understand.
Yeah.
All right, and so you're going. So I guess I love the entrepreneurial story, and then I think I know that you target construction people, obviously. So I think my audience, whatever. I don't know if I have a very big audience, Samantha. We talked about that, but I think the people that do tune into me will get some value out of your story. So. Can we just get a little bit like, did you go to college? When did you decide you want to be an entrepreneur? How has that journey been and the move and all that stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So college is a fun story, I think, because it was very much of like putting I have a goal. I'm going to put myself through this and I'm going to do it without student debt. And so I think that's where a little bit of my grit comes from as far like that transfers into my entrepreneurial journey. Ooh, we could get into it. I don't know. Okay, we can get into it. I was inspired by my grandfather being in the Army. I also was, I mean, not like a totally broken home. I had many blessings growing up, but I think once I was in high school, I was a little bit lost. And so I also was a bit like into Laura Croft. And I was like, I'm going to go be a badass. I'm going to go, be an FBI badass. So I actually enrolled in the Army National Guard in Florida to be a military police. And I got a scholarship to go to Embry-Riddle in Daytona for Homeland Security. And then I went to basic and I got discharged for some heart issues at that time. And I lost my Embry-Riddle scholarship because I wasn't enrolled like that fall. And the scholarship was dependent on that. But I was in basic. I couldn't help that. Anyway, that was God saying like, you took the totally wrong path that I wanted for your life. And we're going to aggressively course correct. And so, yeah, I kind of dropped the whole military FBI career thing that I had planned out and went back to school and focused on business. I was like, I can at least get a business degree. I'm going to keep rambling unless you stop me.
Please, it's your story. I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, at that time I was also like, okay, I can do more than this. I wanted to pay for school. I didn't want to have student debt. And I didn't want to live at home with my parents. So 18, I was working 2 jobs. So I would work full-time hours in school, Monday through Thursday, and also full-time work hours, Monday through Friday. I'd work at Panera. And then on Saturday and Sundays, I'd work double shifts at a restaurant hosting. So I'd work like the like 10 to 14 hour shifts Saturday and Sunday. So I had no days off, maybe like 6 months. Yeah.
Can we get the FBI career? When do we graduate? And if you don't want to age yourself, like I'm not doing that. It's just good for perspective, just like your life story. So when did you do the FBI thing relative to high school? So graduate high school, approximate years is all I'm looking for. Just so
no, it's all good. I mean, this past year has been the first year that I've been like, I'm going to own my age. Usually I try to present much older than I am, but I'm 28 this year. So I graduated high school 2015. I enrolled that spring, and I'm a youngin'. My birthday's in July. So I was 17 when I graduated. So I was 17 when I enrolled or enlisted in the military. And that's part of why my basic didn't happen until that fall, because they had to wait till I turned 18 to go to basic. So then that would have been like the fall and winter, early spring of 2015 to 2016 that I was like trying to then figure out a whole new direction in life.
Okay. And then you say, and I just want to be clear. So you were in basic, so you lost your scholarship. So like one opportunity took the other one, or because you didn't get through basic because of health?
Yeah, it was a little, so that my Embry-Riddle scholarship was dependent on me attending school that fall, and my basic was happening that fall. So that wasn't going to work out. So I lost that scholarship, and Embry-Riddle is, really expensive private school. And I wasn't going to have the funds to do that, even with a GI Bill, to graduate without student loans. And I was very adamant about not wanting that. So yeah, it kind of was like, they didn't like directly cancel each other out, but kind of indirectly it was like, okay, like this is not the path for my life. And so we're not going to pursue either one of these.
And so this is 17, you're 17, 18. So all your dreams kind of blow up. Is this a dangerous place for you, or you're just kind of like rolling with the punches? Like, all right, we'll go to college. Like this seems like it could be a defining moment, but you skirted over it as like a not big deal.
I think it wasn't that defining for me. Yeah. Because I also, this is something I've also learned as an adult of like, I don't get into the happy emotions too deep. I can get into the negative emotions pretty deeply, right? Whether that's like sorrow or anger, but I don't get like overly excited about things. I don't get my hopes up. And so the fact that like something didn't pan out for me, it wasn't depressing as like, oh, like another thing that didn't work. It wasn't like Eeyore vibes, from Winnie the Pooh, but it was just kind of like, okay, like this good thing I wanted didn't happen, on to the next type of vibe, at least in that point in my life.
Okay, fair enough. So,
yeah.
And what business school? And then you can pick back up at business. Sorry to interrupt, but why business?
Okay. I think because I always knew I wanted to own a business at some point. I didn't think it'd be at this point in my life. I thought it'd be like 30s or 40s. And also it's like, I just need to get something done. And I'm not going to waste money, doing some random degree, even though business is kind of random, I guess. But yeah, so I went to Florida. I went to Florida State College of Jacksonville, which, and they had recently transitioned from being a community college to being a 4-year college. And the plan was to just get my associates done and transfer to University of North Florida. But I moved out to Colorado before that happened. So I just kind of kept going with FSCJ doing their remote program. Cause I was also like, I'm going to get a master's and a doctorate at some point in my life. So where I get my bachelor's is not that big of a deal. I just need to get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I took you off your high. I feel bad. All right. So we go to college. Yeah.
Go to college. And so, I was working full time, going to school full time and working part time. And then I was like, this is a lot and this kind of sucks. And so I'm still 18. Sometime that spring, early summer, I walk into a staffing agency just to interview because I need to get some kind of job to break out of the service world and have a little bit more normalcy in my life. And 2 days later, they called and was like, hey, we'd actually love to hire you internally for like a receptionist and administrative assistant role. And like internal roles at a staffing agency do not open up very often. And so it was very much a coveted role. And I was like, awesome. Like I don't think I even gave a 2-week notice at any of my jobs. I was like, I got 1 day left here and I will start tomorrow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it was Panera and like a restaurant and not even a high end restaurant. This is like an ale house. Like, so it's like, they don't need me to give all this notice. And so I started at this staffing agency and that's really, I learned So much. I think, I always say like I was pretty immature at that time, but I think compared to other 18-year-olds, I was rather mature. But there was, it was a toxic office. I kind of fell into the traps of drama and gossip, but I also learned so much I would interview like 50 people a day. So I learned so much about interviewing, evaluating people, like how to really navigate the world, how to show up really well for CEOs when I would like accompany someone else on, a discovery call or something. But also then like, how do I connect with the CEO at 9 a.m. and then at 10:15, I got to go talk to this warehouse dude, and like just kind of hop between these seats. So I was there for about a year and a half and just learned a tremendous amount there. That was awesome. That was, I think, better than my business schooling.
How long were you there?
I was there for a year and a half.
Okay.
And I left because I was like, I very much don't want to do this. I don't want my job to be like this for my whole life. Because if you don't know much about the typical staffing world, your average week is like 50 to 60 hours. And at that time I was on temp to hire assignments. And so I could get a client that at 4:00 is like, hey, I need 15 dudes at the warehouse tomorrow morning at 7. Okay, well now I'm working till 6 or 7 p.m. Maybe I missed one of my college classes. Like, there was just no way to like schedule my life around that. And it was like, this cannot be my grind forever. Like, I'm not going to work here for years and years and not have some kind of life. So I decided to leave that role.
And where did you go?
Yeah. So then that's where I got my intro to the construction world. So I went on to become an executive assistant at a home builder.
I'm seeing your story take shape right there.
Yeah.
It all comes with, there it is. Keep going. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's where I think I'm very careful now to not phrase like, oh, things came easy to me. I very much worked for what I had. I left a job that had decent salary and commission, went to an hourly job as like an office manager. And then in 3 months of that was invited to be an executive assistant to the owner. And so then that's where I learned everything from like, hey, how does land development work for home builders? Like how does the realtor process work? How does building a home from scratch work? And also, how does this dude who's running his company for 40 something years, he's 75, he has a desk that he never sits at, doesn't have a computer, is maybe a bit of a very much of a toxic leader. Like he would just randomly pick, I want to focus on this thing today, and call all the managers in to sit at my conference. Like pretty much the conference table was his desk. And he would just host meetings and give new assignments and new ideas to people all day. And then randomly decide, I'm upset that progress hasn't happened on this idea I had 4 months ago. Call everyone else in so I can yell at them and see what's going on. So it's like, okay, how do you keep up with someone that's like that? And how do you also be the in-between? Because now I'm the messenger for the bad guy, and I've got to like hold these other department managers accountable. I'm 19, 20 years old. I have to hold them accountable. They know I don't know anything about the construction world. And it was such an interesting time. Yeah, I don't know. I could dive into a bunch of different stuff on that, but
I would he won't listen to this, but I suppose probably you couldn't tell all of the stories, but there's probably infinite wisdom from that experience. I'm calling him a narcissist. A lot of us are narcissists. So I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge, but take us through so you do that. And then you decide, do we go to Auxo next? Or
there's a few more jumps there. I mean, I at that point, that's when I moved to Colorado, wanting something different than Jacksonville, Florida. I moved to Colorado. I, got another kind of office manager, executive assistant role for a company that is software for oil and gas. That's where I got introduced to Lean Six Sigma and process improvement, project support, and really supporting a larger leadership team. So this was a sub company of Helmerich and Payne, which is a global giant in the oil and gas drilling world. So learning, okay, how do you manage all of that? And how do you bring process to this very wide culture? And then I left that role. COVID happened. I also at that time gave birth to my first kiddo. COVID hit. right when I was ready to go back to work. So I was at home for 7 months with my kiddo. So much respect for stay-at-home moms. I, at the time, was losing my absolute mind. I didn't know what to do with myself, and wanted to do something more. And that's then how Auxo developed. So that was the summer. That was July of 2020 is when Auxo was born. 7-month-old baby at home, and let's do something. Let's make an opportunity for ourselves.
That's fantastic. So now the part that's going to be uncomfortable is, can we live into the pains of your business, or do you want to talk about the pains that you've? I'd like to do both. I think it humanizes you, but it's also like us as business owners, we got to act like we have our it together, right? We can't be, but I mean, I'm sure it's been a grind. So
Yeah. We can go either way. I mean, listen, my newsletter this past year has just been like every week. It's like, hey, here's how I failed in business. Here's how you should not fail like me. So wherever you want to go, I'll go.
I think for the sake of the entrepreneur, which is really what I want to give voice to, because everybody's struggling and everybody can learn from everybody else's failure. Like, let's take it from birth to today on the Auxo. So what problem? You've always known you wanted to have a business. When does this take shape? Does this take shape at the staffing company, or is it after sitting under the exec? Like, how does your vision come to be?
Yeah, I mean, the idea to like at some point own my own business came from like middle and high school, like just knowing that was the way to build wealth. And I mean, I came from lower middle class, so I always that's where kind of that at least initial desire came from. It was very much of a have because I did not have kind of goal, which is a very loose framework to build anything off of. So when Auxo was born, it also was born off of a loose framework. And so I've learned a lot of like what not to do because of that. But someone was like, hey, have you heard of the virtual assistant world? There's flexibility. There's all this stuff in it. I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, I've got a baby at home. I'm not going to go pay $3,000 a month for childcare just yet. And so what do I do with that? And so I started looking into that virtual assistant world and realized, hey, I do have this awesome background of HR and ops. I can very easily do admin. So got my first few clients on that. And I was like, okay, on top of this, I also love teaching. Like teaching and training I think I'll retire as a professor. I don't think I'll ever retire. I just think that once I'm like done with business and working, I'll be a part-time professor somewhere, I think. I was like, okay, what can I do with that? Oh, well, I can build a team and I can train them how to be awesome. And so that has just kind of been the evolution of the idea, but it very much started out with, well, I need to do something. I need to make money and have flexibility. What do I do with that? Which is like an empty vision, right? Sorry. Now I think I lost my train of thought there.
You're good. I mean, so I think when you when did you got to know when you said go, at what point, when did I'm starting a business and did it start as a virtual assistant business? You were looking for.
It started as a virtual assistant business. So, started thinking through the idea in July, had my first set of clients, beginning of September there. And then started building out that team at the end of the year of 2020. And then a little bit of pride and ego came into play of, well, I don't want to just be known for admin work. I don't want to just be virtual assistant stuff. So let's also offer strategy and ops. And so the positioning kind of got a little bit murky as I was trying to do so many different things for kind of any client that came along. As many people in the service provider world, you don't really determine your ideal client up front. You just say, anyone that will pay me, I'll help you. And so that was kind of maybe the defining failure for the first 2.5 years of my business was not defining what I was offering and who I was offering it to. But we provided a mix of admin, of ops, of like, hey, so we'll automate your systems, we'll do all this stuff. And now it's been much more refined of, okay, we're going to specifically help you solve your back office problems. We offer virtual assistants. We're not going to automate all your systems, but we're going to help be like your strategic integrator. So a lot of our clients now, I call them like idea rich founders or visionary doers. Like you've got a million ideas. You don't want to just delegate everything because you don't like sitting on your ass. You're on your ass. You like to be busy. You want to go do the thing as well, but you need someone kind of to buffer your ideas into structure and execution. And so that's what we focus on now, which has been a big evolution and a big work in progress as far as refining and niching down and saying no to certain opportunities.
Good for you. That's awesome. And so are you EOS? You said integrator. Are you
I'm not EOS certified, but I've read the books. I do kind of my own version of EOS for my business, but not like full scale EOS.
got it. I mean,
Yeah.
because I was wondering why you don't advertise as a fractional integrator, because I think the two things that I say, like, and I, for the small business owner, like a business, any leader is only as good as his assistant. I like firmly believe that. But like when you say assistant, it has like this negative, I don't want to say negative, but there's a connotation there, like secretary or whatever. But it's really like I call them GSDs, like get shit done. So are you offering to come and get shit? Like, is that like, I guess talk to me about the client arrangement. So you take
Yeah.
visionaries, got all these ideas. They're stuck in the weeds. They're trying to do this. And I think I wish I had your website up. I had it up and I don't, but
That's okay. I think. Yeah. Our tagline, I mean, we've gone through so many different versions of our tagline, but I mean, essentially I like to say that we help growing scrappy teams, or delegation just made simple. Like my whole thing is, how do you simplify the heck out of stuff? Like stop trying to overcomplicate your strategies, overcomplicate your life. Like I think most people's issues is not that they're doing maybe the wrong strategy. It's just maybe that they've are doing too many strategies or doing too many. They've made it all way harder than it needs to be.
Got it. And are you mostly construction, or you just picked that as a target niche? That's one of the many.
Yeah, that was an experiment last year when everyone was like, you got to niche down into something. So I was like, okay, we're going to focus on construction, commercial construction. Those are my scrappy guys that are secretly teddy bears. I love them. They try to have like a hard front at first. And I'm like, we're going to be best friends at the end of this. Like, don't you worry. So we started focusing on construction early 2024. And that has diluted a little bit. Like we still work with a lot of blue collar teams, mostly on the commercial side, a little bit of residential because I still have that home building background. But we help so much more than that. Like our corporate consultants, other consultants that help blue collar companies, nonprofits. I think it's a little bit more about the type of like the personality that we're helping is that visionary doer. That's also not an asshole. Like there is a negative connotation sometimes with assistants, and you'll get the people that they want their assistant to read their mind from day one. I'm like, that's just not realistic. And you're not going to be effective with anybody if that's your expectation. Right. So it's more the personality of who we go after.
Got it. And I want to make sure to do you the right justice here. So probably the easiest advertisement or marketing for you would be like, let's talk through your favorite story of like this. Can you just take us through a scenario where Auxo worked the way you wanted it to work? Like what was the problem, and then what was the engagement, and what did you guys do? Is that something you can self-promote, or is that not comfortable?
Yeah, I should be way better at having like a case study to pull out of my pocket, huh? Yeah.
Well, maybe I can give you a better prompt. I think what I suspect the listener is right in your wheelhouse of a visionary. I'm an owner. I suspect I'm doing too many things. I've got a bunch of balls in the air. I have some sort of semblance of organized chaos. And this woman sounds like she knows her shit, but I don't exactly know what would I hire her at. Like I don't have, because I don't need, do I need an assistant? Do I need a president? And like, I don't even know what an integrator is. So it's like, just walk us through like how I believe, because what I can see is you bring an order to the mayhem, but what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I'll actually break down like our agenda that I hold for people that do mini strategy sessions. So we do like full day strategy sessions with people, but this is a mini session and I will give you the blueprint. If you are like so unsure of like, where do I even start? I know that like I'm either overwhelmed or I want to go kick ass and achieve more things, but I'm at capacity right now and I don't want to be stressed and overwhelmed. Here's like your blueprint for what I'd recommend you do. And I call it map it, keep it, delegate it. So the first thing you're going to do is at a very high level, map out what the process is, like what it takes for your business to function. And there's 3 categories. We're going to keep everything super simple. You've got get the clients. So everything under marketing, everything under sales. How do you get the clients? You got your operations. That's how do I then deliver what I've sold to these people? So it's service or project delivery or product delivery. And then you've got your cash management. How do I get paid for the things that I've promised to sell or to deliver on? So what are all your processes there? And it could be like, hey, if you're mostly on inbound, then high level processes, you've got a lot under content creation. If you're mostly outbound, then you've got a lot on prospecting and those processes. And then you deliver those processes. You've got client onboarding in there. You've got billing, payment, making sure you don't have late payments, all that. And then you're going to look at that list. It should be like a massive brain dump of stuff. And you're just going to start highlighting like, hey, this is the stuff I like to do. And this is the stuff I want to keep. Because I think the biggest failure when it comes to delegation and starting to hire someone is that the founder themselves doesn't know what they actually want to focus on. They maybe have an idea of, well, I don't like these things, so I'll hand off these things, but they don't say like, okay, here's my job description as the CEO or as like the main person helping clients or the founder, here's my job description. So figure out what you want to keep. And then everything left over is what you would delegate. So map it, keep it, delegate it. And so you look at what's left over. Does it make sense for 2 people to do this? Can it be 1 person? What kind of person should this be? And that's a super simple DIY thought exercise you could go through. And then you can say from there, okay, I need a virtual executive assistant. I need more of a chief of staff integrator that is going to like think 3 steps ahead of me and be able to do all the strategic stuff for me. Or I need a W-2 person. I need someone that's in person because I want to just be able to poke my head out my office and give them an assignment and something, right? Instead of messaging them on Slack. So if you have all those details figured out, then the decision around who to hire becomes way easier. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Makes great sense. So then, well, and I think you had campaigned for this because there's some projects I have going outside of the fence company where I need some support, and this may or may not make sense for us. So you sit down, you do either a half day or a whole day working session, and it sounds like we have kind of there's some semblance of a go forward plan. Are you helping us, the visionaries, tackle the delegate column, and like it's like this is how we build a staff plan? Is that how the engagement normally looks?
Yeah. So I would say one of the few skills I can say that I'm pretty good at is just evaluating people, and I think that's an empathy trait I learned from my childhood. But yeah, once we map all that stuff out, then I would be very confident in recommending, hey, this is not only the type of person as far as like the skill set they need, but type of person as far as like personality that they need. So I help create that whole plan. And also like if you want to work with an assistant, you don't have to like go through that strategy with us, right? Like we can also, if you have clarity on what you need, we could just start with an assistant. But if you don't have clarity, that's where I would be stepping in to help you figure all that out and just pull it all out of your brain dump with me. I'll make sense of it. Bring me your chaos. I like a good chaotic brain dump. But then we map that out and we say, okay, this is what you need. This is what your staffing plan looks like. Or, hey, this is what you need to hire today. And then once we hit this milestone, that's when it makes sense to bring this other person on board. Even if you have the budget to hire all 2, 3, however many people today, it's not going to work out. So here's how we'll stagger it. And we map all that out so it feels simple and also really easy to execute.
And so then if I hire, we might need to pause X and then redo this and work together. And then I can be the case study, but then that's going to take months. So let's say we don't do that. But am I working with you, or you're hiring me somebody else that I'm working? Like where do you start and stop? Is it because I know the typical, you're not just a recruiter, you're not even advertising as a recruiter. So I'm hiring Auxo as my virtual assistant. They're on your payroll. Is that how it works? Or walk me through the mechanics.
When it comes to day-to-day execution, I'm not your person, which some people do get sad about. And I'm like, you know what? I love you too, but I'm not the person for this. So I'm going to stay at high level. I'm going to stay at let's help dissect your ideas. And let me help hold you accountable as well. Like a lot of times, because again, I'm working with idea-rich people like you. The people that you tell them to slow down and they're like, yeah, I do. I need to slow down. And they go take like a vacation for 2 days and then they come back and they're like, here's 30 more ideas that I have. Yeah. Right. So I have to say, okay, you have all these ideas. When we first met, you said your goal was to do this for your business. Is if your goal has changed, that's okay, but I'm going to hold you accountable to this. Like, what's the new goal? Why are we doing this new idea? So that's kind of where I stay at. And then I say, okay, if you want to change it, if you want to achieve this, then here's your action plan. Here's what you need to have in place. And then when it comes to implementing that and executing that, then it would be somebody else that's on our team, whether they're at an administrative level, if they're more of that personal executive assistant or more of that operations. Yeah, they're going to automate, set up all your tech stack stuff and all of that.
Got it. And I'd love to get a testimonial and bring them on here someday for you if you've got one, because I think that might be your greatest sales weapon. But and maybe it's going to be me. So then, generally speaking, what are your engagement periods? Are you like they start working with you and they never leave you, or do you graduate them, or like where do you?
Yeah.
I guess how do you make money, and how do you help make your clients make it a value add proposition?
On our virtual assistant side, I mean, we've got clients that have been with us for over 2 years. Like a big thing I stress with people is we need to get you some stability. And anyone that we pair you with, like I'm going to vouch for their reliability. Every now and again, you get the person that, hey, they got offered an awesome full-time job. And so, yeah, they're going to leave. But for the most part, like here's your assistant and they're going to be your right-hand partner long-term. And as far as engagements with me, usually the initial engagement is somewhere between like 1 to 6 months. Depends on how much of a hot mess we're working with and how much we need to figure out. And then after that, it's, hey, maybe we're only engaging maybe just quarterly. Or if you have a lot of goals, okay, maybe we do need to meet once a month and have some kind of engagement for that, just to touch base on your goals and make sure you're not going in a million different directions. For the most part, especially for my ADHD brain, my actual engagement with clients is a little bit shorter.
Got it. And so you've got a team, and as Cassandra, is that your mom?
Sandra. Yeah, Sandra's my mom. She's our ops manager.
Yeah. Tell me about that relationship.
Oh man, it's I think it's so fun. And I get that almost everyone I say that to, they're like, oh wow, I couldn't work with my mom. And I'm like, I respect that, but then the therapist in me, not that I am a therapist, but I think I have that vibe sometimes. I'm like, let's talk about your relationship with your parents. Like, why could you not work with your mom? But she's awesome. I mean, the reason I knew I could work with my mom was with my kids, I would ask her for her advice, like as my mom, right? As the grandma here, like, give me advice on this. And even when I would tell her, like, tell me what to do, her response would always be so firm and gentle and just say like, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but this is what I would do. Like, here's how I would approach the situation. And her, in general, her level of awareness with situations and her ability to kind of balance that firm and gentleness, I proved to me like, hey, we could work together and it's not going to be weird that your daughter is your boss. Like, she's receptive to feedback. And so I think that's part of what makes it a really special relationship. And we've both worked at, respecting and honoring each other's roles, and whether we're working or in our personal lives. And so, yeah, she is the detail oriented. I mean, I can be super detail oriented, but it kind of comes in waves sometimes. So she's the one that's like, hey, Sam, like, you missed this or you missed that. We need to have this in place. And she kind of keeps me on track. I think what I always tell people with my team, not many people get to hear me say this, but with my assistants and we're doing onboarding or internal stuff, I'm always like, I get my shit together for our clients. I'm on it for our clients, but for myself, I'm just a hot mess, y'all. Like, it's not put together. So my mom is the me that I am for other clients, I'd say.
That's rich. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. How big's the team? Do you mind sharing? How big is that?
Yeah. I mean, our assistant, that team kind of fluctuates because it's 1099, it's contract. So I think right now we're maybe at 6 or 7, and every team member gets stacked with clients. Sometimes we're larger than that. Sometimes we're smaller than that. So yeah. And then then I've got my internal team. I've got my mom, I've got marketing, I've got lead gen support, which is not cringy lead gen, but it's more like some engagement stuff. So I keep a pretty lean internal team. I probably don't take my own advice sometimes. I probably need to delegate more, but hey, the coddlers, what is it? Cobbler?
Cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I guess who should pick up the phone and call you and do, I guess what's the cost on the planning day? What did you call it?
The strategy. Yeah. So, I mean, a mini session with me, which is like 2 hours, that's only $575. It's but cheap, I'd say. But a full day session, that's going to run you more in the $5,000 to $10,000. And then, if you want me in person, then you're paying for my hotels and stuff there. And I never fly in and fly back same day. So you're paying for 2 nights on that front. I'm a little bit bougie, but I promise it's worth it. But then, on the virtual assistant side, we have US based assistants. So if you're looking at, someone internationally, we're not going to be cost competitive with that. But we are pretty cost competitive when it comes to comparing freelancers and other US agencies. So, I mean, you've got, and I'll throw out my competitors out there. Like you've got my Outdesk assistants, mod assistants, and their starting packages are at like $1,700 or $1,900 a month. And so you can start with us somewhere in like the $600 to $900, under $1,000. Like, hey, maybe you only need 5 hours of work a week, and that's okay. So that's a 20-hour a month package. And we just say, hey, do we need to be at the admin level or at the higher ops assistant level? Let's figure out, based on what you want to execute, the outcomes you want, and your budget, where you need to land. And so we can have a more cost-effective entry point to at least get you some relief without you having to carve out $2,000 every month in your budget if that's not doable for you.
And I expect I don't think what you're doing is easy. So kudos, because it's not linear. It's a little different. You're blending two models. Like there's a lot. Do you have any sort of statistics? And it's okay if you don't want to share them, because I mean, you're very dependent on us doing our part, and us visionaries are freaking pain. So it's like, how many of your placements like succeed or like don't quite get, like it doesn't gain traction? Because it's hard in 1 day, 2 day to make a placement. And then like,
yeah, I'd say like pulling a statistic out my ass, but like pretty confident as far as experience goes. I'd say like 90% of the time, the first assistant you get paired with is like the right assistant for you.
That's huge. That's freaking huge. I tell people, like when people are scaling their business and they ask me, I'm like, you better figure you're going to go 1 for 10, because it's hard. So, it's hard getting the right person.
That goes back to like the thing I'm pretty confident about is being able to evaluate like what makes this kind of client tick, what kind of like, how do they communicate? I love understanding like the why and how, but like between how people function and think. And so I'd say we're pretty spot on with finding a great fit for you. And I did try to like, okay, what statistics could we try to be a little bit more consistent about getting the data for? And that's tough, because admin, we focus a little bit more on success markers, which are more qualitative than quantitative. And then also, we can't say, hey, I saved this person X amount of hours. Because like you said, it's the visionary doers. And you guys are notorious for, once you have a little bit of freed up time, you go do something else. And so I can't effectively say, oh, this person now, they don't work an extra 20 hours. Like they have 20 hours to go do whatever they want now, because you come up with another idea. So I think it's more so about that qualitative. They feel less stressed. They might even be doing more, but they're more excited about the work that they're doing.
It's interesting. I'm married to some of the other stuff I have going on, but it would be so hard. But I think telling to like take some sort of initial test and post test and then have them grow. Because how many clients would you say in a year? How many would you say? I know they vary from, but how many do you see? How many engagements do you do a year, if you had to guess?
Oh, I should know those numbers, shouldn't I?
It's okay.
I don't. I don't have.
Is it 5 a month? Is it 20 a month? Do you have any?
We're definitely not at 20 a month. We're still at the boutique size, which is awesome because I get to give like individual attention to clients. So I'm still pretty involved as far as like, I'll check in at 30, 60, and 90 days with our clients, and then also quarterly if they choose to meet with me. Some clients are too busy and they're like, no, my assistant's fine. Like, leave me alone, Sam. I'm all good. Right. But if you choose to meet with me, that's awesome, because then we get to brainstorm on stuff and get a little strategy in. And so we're definitely not at 20 clients a month. We're smaller than that. And I would say in this past year, I mean, we've maybe only had 3 clients leave us. So our retention rate on the virtual assistant side is also pretty high, which is an awesome success marker for me. Yeah,
that's cool. So if you had to guess, do you think it could be 5 a year for me? And there's no PP measurement. I'm just curious how many people is Sam supporting right now in a given year?
Yeah. Well, I think also another important different point there is like I'm not, even though I'm involved in some of those check-ins, I'm not like the integrator for all of these
Yep. I
companies.
meant
So
Auxo. When I say Sam, I mean
yeah, I
Auxo.
think
How many? Yeah.
some months we get like 6 clients, some months it's more like we're onboarding two. So maybe a good
Okay.
average would be like 4 to 5 a month.
4 to 5. So you've got somewhere around 60 people. That's awesome. And they normally go on for the total engagement is the goal, and this is important just for the people that is the goal to keep them or the goal is to graduate them? It depends on
Yeah,
the client, I'm
so
sure.
it does depend on the client. So there are some clients that their reason for leaving us is not negative. It's just that they've grown so much now they do need a full-time person. There are some clients like, hey, they could do a full-time person, but they just don't want that. So we end up splitting a role into maybe 2 or 3 assistants so that you can stay fractional and 1099 with that. And so the goal is always like you're going to have a long-term person. Even if you were to get W-2, you're going to have an assistant at some, like your goal is to always have that. And I don't do long-term commitments. So anyone getting scared about that, like you don't have to sign up for a whole year, but you do have to sign up for at least 3 months because that does a few things. One, it repels all the people that are like, oh, I just want a project. I'm like, well, we're not your people. Like just go on Upwork for that. It also repels the people that typically fire people within the first 2 to 3 weeks because they themselves are bad managers, but they blame it on everybody else. So we do a 3-month minimum. And then after that, it's just 30 days to cancel. But again, that then says, hey, you're going to give us time to do our 30, 60, 90-day plan. And you want someone long-term. So you're going to commit to at least 90 days with us.
And so if I hire on a fractional, I'm a visionary, I need support and I get support, and my end game is to move this to full time. Do these people that you staff for me, is there any hope for that, or they're going to stay fractional? And then so question 1, is there any chance to take my part timer and make him a full timer? And question 2, if not, do you help me find a full timer, or am I then on my own when it's time for full time?
Yeah. So, okay. So, I'll answer it backwards. So yeah, I do help with the recruiting side of it. So I know you mentioned earlier, like I don't advertise a lot that we'll do recruiting, but we do flat fee recruiting, which means we get rid of all the cringy commission negotiating. So yeah, when you are ready for someone full time, I'll help find that person. It means, hey, we've got an updated job description, we've got updated needs. We have had clients ask, like, is it possible to eventually buy out their assistant? They end up just sticking with them under our contract because it's easier. But also, most of those assistants, they're not in the same state as you, so you're going to have to set up all new tax accounts, like for payroll tax and whatever in their state. And most of the time they want the flexibility that comes with being a contractor, and they don't want the structure of a W-2. So it's pretty rare that the assistant you start out with us will eventually become your full-time W-2 person. Again, I think most of our clients end up building a fractional team.
Got it. And so if I say, I just need help with my bookkeeping, would you be like, yeah, I can staff that? Or you'd be like, no, that we're not a good fit. And then I'm assuming the right arrangement is, I need my right hand. I need my right hand. Find me my right hand that's going to help me like put all of my dreams into reality is more what you tend towards is the vibe I'm picking up. Am I correct or am I off?
Yeah. I mean, like not all clients are like that. We've got some clients like, hey, I just need someone to own my podcast, or I just need someone to own my inbox, even though there's AI tools like Fix Your AI, like some people, like, I don't recommend Fix Your AI, but they're like, I just need someone that can own this inbox and then also like respond to clients and manage this or manage projects, right? So I would say, if I'm very transparent, like if you come to us and you're like, hey, I just need someone to do bookkeeping, okay, go hire someone that only does bookkeeping. That's what they do all day long, especially for construction. Like go hire a construction focused bookkeeper because you need that for that industry. If you're a service provider and you say you need bookkeeping, awesome, like that's super easy bookkeeping, and an admin assistant on our team can handle that. But what else can they do for you? Because your bookkeeping is so easy. There's no way that that's the only point of stress for you. Right. And then the other point of transparency that I say is we can definitely help with marketing stuff, podcast editing, LinkedIn articles, email newsletters, all that stuff, but we're not marketing strategists. So if you are already struggling with lead conversion, go hire a strategist first, and then your assistant would be the person to execute whatever strategy that person comes up with.
Got it. Well, what have I not asked about your business that we need to ask about? I have other questions about Samantha, but
Yeah, I think we've dissected it pretty well. I mean, we've got many delegation strategies, full day strategy sessions, and like the strategic integrator stuff. And that's all. Hey, you're getting my fun, quirky wisdom and expertise there. And then we've got the recruiting and the virtual assistant stuff. Like, how can we take the back office problems off your plate so you could go come up with more ideas to do? So I think we've gone through it all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then what do you love and what do you hate about business? Like what parts of it, or actually I should say, are you loving what you're doing? Is it like awesome? Or are you like questioning yourself? I know it depends on the week, I'm sure, but
I'd say right now I'm loving what I'm doing. And that's mostly because in 2025, I stopped offering lean process projects and got like, I had said, okay, how can I bring my Lean Six Sigma knowledge to more of the virtual assistant and team stuff that I do? And so I stopped doing all of those projects. And now I really love what I do. I do a lot more people focused things, which is my expertise and what I feel good at. So what do I not like? I'm not totally sure. Like even like the bad customer service days, like where maybe a client's being a little finicky, I still love it. I'm still good at that problem solving. I think maybe what I hate is maybe the unknown. And that's been a big thing. And then we'll get into like faith and philosophy and spiritualness is letting go and not always being in control, which is a big part of entrepreneurship. Even like when you come up with a new strategy, it's not always throwing spaghetti at the wall, hopefully, but it's still experimental. And that is always really stressful for me.
And if you could, is your husband involved in the business? What does he think of the business?
My husband is so supportive. He's incredibly supportive. He's not involved quite yet. Maybe one day. He is like my semi business coach consultant as far as like keep my head on straight or just listen to me vent about this annoying problem.
Yeah. What does he do?
Yeah. My husband does government affairs for the oil and gas world. So if you're in the Midwest or kind of Colorado area, then you know a lot about like the hydrogen or carbon sequestration, hydrogen pipeline projects that have been going on. And so Tallgrass Energy doing that in Nebraska, Wyoming, the boring places where there's a lot of land to do those kind of developmental projects. He does that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so if you got to, since you're the queen of delegation, if you got to bring in a partner and somebody that was going to be charging as hard as you, invested in the business, what would you want them to do?
First of all, I'm going to need them to buy me a crown now if I'm the queen. So I can just sit on my throne, maybe even a staff with some gems on it. But if I was going to hire someone for that, I probably would bring someone else that's very like ops minded. Probably. Yeah. Because, like I wouldn't say maybe 2 years ago, I wouldn't say this, but I'd say today I do feel pretty good about like our marketing and content. I do feel pretty good about how lead gen and sales go. So I wouldn't want to bring someone in that's going to be all like hot and flashy on that. Like I'd want to bring someone else in that's grounded. So then I can be kind of hot mess on my own.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you is your customer a little bit, eh?
What was that?
You is your customer. You're the visionary.
Yeah. I'd say so sometimes. And I think that, if you go back to my career journey, as far as, just like I was always in that, okay, let's just get shit done. And if someone else can't figure it out, Sam can figure it out role. And so I always thought like, okay, maybe I am a type A person. I'm like, I am detail oriented and high strung and all those. And then in the past few years, especially with being a mom, I'm like, oh, that's not my actual personality at all. So I probably would bring in a type A person that could also be like, Sam, just chill out, stop being a hot mess and like focus for a second,
I want you to take note. I don't know why I'm yawning. It's not you. I don't know. I
am
don't
extremely offended that you would yawn in the presence of a queen.
You should be, but don't be. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't get midday tired. I don't do coffee, but for some reason it's hitting me like a freight train. So, I apologize. I don't know what it is, okay. Yeah. So, where do we want to go from here? Well, I love what you're up to. I think it would be really fun to bring it to the fence world. There's a lot of consultants in our space that are all fence people. And I find that I don't know. I don't need advice on digging holes. I need some, back office organization or whatever. So I think it's a very compelling thesis, but, yeah, I think I want to pivot if we may, or is there
Go
anything
for it.
else? Yeah, you said we
No,
covered
you
down on
said you
this.
had like some personal questions. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
pivot if
let's
you
game
want.
on. But before we do, because I
Uh-huh.
think pivots are really important. So you're pivoting. So um, I don't want to call it a false start because I would consider myself the king of false starts. But the podcast is taking a pivot.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned two hiatuses. Can we just live into those and understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I can tell
Okay.
you my podcast isn't where I want it to be either. So I can lead with the vulnerability, but I don't know if that's what's the pause and
Yeah.
the
Okay.
pivot.
So, I mean, we had the growth and action partners. And so that was realizing, hey, I love masterminding with people. And also, like, people love to call me up with their ideas, non clients, just like business networking people. And so that was like, okay, how can I maybe monetize this and create a mastermind around it? And then I just realized, like, this is just another space where I need to be on it. And growing memberships is extremely, I'd say, difficult. And it was distracting from the quality of how I wanted to show up for my Auxo people. So I said, okay, we're just going to pause that entirely. So that's where that gap took a pause earlier this year. And that was also kind of an experiment anyway. It was just kind of, if anyone is really big in the construction world on LinkedIn and you follow Jesse Hernandez with Depth Builder, he's got a big thing where he says he's like big aversion or annoyance with people that talk about an idea, but then never take action. And so that was part of my, Jesse, you're going to love me. He's a great friend. But I was like, okay, I'm going to take action on this idea and just experiment with it, see where it goes. If it fails, it fails. And I wouldn't say it failed. I just was like not devoting the time I needed to it. And then Construction Trailblazers was an awesome way for me to get connected and plugged in into like this awesome community on LinkedIn, and really kind of test out what does it mean to have a podcast, really learn a little bit more about the commercial construction world. But then I just decided, okay, I want to expand beyond this, especially if our clients are not just construction. And so I'm taking a pivot that allows me to maybe still focus a bit on my content topics and have still construction leaders, but a little bit wider of the net as far as guests go, and get a little bit deeper into the practical strategies of what it takes to really run a business and grow it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's awesome what you're up to. Okay. So then you brought it up on our last call and I don't know why it came up naturally there and it hasn't here. You said, have you prayed about it? And I'm like, And then you said something to the tune of like, this is new for you. So where do you bump back into Jesus or bump out of tell me about your faith story. Cause it's interesting to me.
I mean, I'm a recovering Catholic.
Nice.
So I grew up Catholic. When I was in high school, like 10th grade, my mom said, hey, if you don't want to go to church, I'm not going to make you. And so I stopped going. I was like, oh yeah. Like I was, I was like the good kid for most of my childhood. Because my brothers were kind of hot messes on their own. And then in high school, I was like, I deserve attention too. And what do you do as a teenager when you want attention? You just make a series of bad choices. So yeah, that was most of my high school story there. So yeah, I mean, I stepped away from my faith, and then maybe around 20 years old, I felt like something was missing. I started going to church again, but cried a few times in church, but like nothing ever really stuck. And then when I came out to Colorado, that was kind of okay, we need to hit the reset button on life and find some new rhythms. And I was 21 when I moved to Colorado. I was also 21 when I got pregnant with my first kiddo. And so I didn't have a lot of time to legally be drinking. But I started going back to church, and it was still pretty inconsistent. And it wasn't until I started, talking about faith with my husband more that I got more into it. And because I would remember, like, I'd come over maybe on a Sunday or something, and he would be like, hey, actually, like if I came over early, he'd be like, hey, I'm still actually watching church. Like, can we wait to go out to dinner? Like, I just want to finish this sermon or something. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so from there, I started going to church pretty consistently. And then the summer before our wedding, I mean, we got engaged June of 2021. And we were married that September. It was a short engagement. I mean, we already had a kid together. So it was a pretty short engagement. So that summer in July, he came with me to get baptized. So I felt the call to get rebaptized because in the Catholic Church, you get baptized as a baby and then you have first communion and you have, what is it, like first confession or something? But all of that's very not your choice, obligatory. You're very unaware of, at least for me, I was pretty unaware of like why I was doing any of those things. So I chose to get rebaptized. And since then I've been doing Bible studies, going to church more often, and just growing in my faith way more over the past 4 years. And that has been, I think, such an important catalyst in my personal and professional life.
That's awesome. Are you guys Flatirons or are you Red Rocks?
I'm not a mega church person. So they have recordings if you want to watch it. If you look up Arise Church Denver, I tested out a few churches when I first came to Denver, and some of them either still kind of had the judgment that I felt in the Catholic Church, or they were very performative. And I was like, that's not what I should be feeling, especially like why is Easter some like performative thing? Like that's such an important holiday. And so Arise Church Denver, in my opinion, does an amazing job of staying grounded and like, hey, this is what Jesus said. And this is maybe what we think Jesus said. And this is how we would apply what he said in this modern life that we're living. Let me backtrack, not modern as in like, we're going to skew it to fit modern society, but rather, hey, we're not living in shacks walking on dirt roads anymore. So here's how we would apply it in like today's world.
That's awesome. And so your husband's always been pretty rooted, or when did that take root for him?
Yeah, my husband came back to his faith in his mid to late 20s. He's in his 40s now, and he is incredibly knowledgeable. That's something I've always respected about him. I don't think I have a fifth of the biblical knowledge that he does. And so and he also, separate from his biblical knowledge, he has this amazing fascination with history in general. And so if I bring up a story of, hey, like this part of the Bible, this book of the Bible, or these specific characters, or not characters, they're real people, right? But these specific people, he knows exactly what I'm talking about and can put it in the context of maybe what wars were going on at that time in the ancient world, and all, like who was in charge, the rulers and kingdoms and all that, which I think is amazing context when you have to really understand what's happening in the Bible.
That's awesome. There's so many places I could take it, but I don't want to be invasive. I would love to talk to your husband. I'm slowly becoming a history buff, but I'm front to back in the Bible quite a few times. So So when did you? I mean, has that always been a thing, or like was there a big transformation point for you? There's been two, I would say. So I grew up. I guess I'm a recovering Lutheran. I grew up, was confirmed Lutheran, and then I'm in a business group with a dude he introduced me to the term, like the 3 types of assholes, like money, women, and something else. Like I was totally that guy, like total schnob. And then, I bumped into him in Boulder. So I went to school in Boulder. And then I went to Flatirons. I was just curious. So I found him at Flatirons. It wasn't a mega church at the time. It was in an old hardware store, like a strip mall is where they would have the sermons. And, it's a mega church now. Yeah. So that set me on a trajectory to hang out with Jesus every day. And then honestly, recently I've just I've a little bit deconstructed the dogma of religion, kind of the same thing that you've kind of maybe deconstructed in the from Catholic to Protestant. I'm kind of like, I think the Protestants are doing a lot of the same thing. Like the Pauline gospel for me is a lot different than the Jesus gospel. And like, so this like love above all else, is my theme. And I think that's Jesus's theme. And like, we kind of get trapped, I think, as Christians to say, believe rightly, right? Worship rightly. Like, the death and the resurrection is a sign. It's not the message, And so anyway, so I've been on a little bit of an evolution these days.
Okay. I can respect that. I think if it's okay to push back a little bit, because also like religion is not that's what Jesus came to break down, right? Like we don't need the Pharisees and I never say it right, but Sadducees, whatever Sadducees. The other. Yeah, there we go. I never say it correctly. Like he was not against religion. I mean, he was against religion, right? He was not pro-religion. And I think a lot of people say like, that's why they don't come to church, is they don't want religion. Well, that's not what Jesus is about. And also, at least for me, and what I see in the Bible is it's not just love above all else. It's love God above all else. And then these other things happen. When we love God first, then we can love others really easily. We don't judge. We can, live by these commandments. And so I think that I've seen several people kind of shift away from Christianity into this sense of, ooh, we don't want to get too deep. I also don't want to be disrespectful, but
you're not going to offend me in that. If my big thing is, if anybody listens and gets offended, they get to be invited on. So
okay,
please, yeah.
So okay, I think that people have, they're so repulsed by the idea of religion, and they are maybe so lost and maybe aren't actually in the Word, in the Bible, is hearing what Jesus was saying and praying, and so now they've said, okay, well, I'm faithful, but I'm spiritual. I'm faithful, but I'm also spiritual. And they're not saying spiritual in the sense of the Holy Spirit, but spiritual in the sense of like the universe. And then that's where we run the risk of, okay, we're not loving God first. We're not worshiping him as our one and only thing. We're now worshiping the idea of spirituality and the idea of manifesting things and the universe and the cause, and all of that, not realizing that he is the creator of those things. So I just feel like that's a important line to be aware of and to walk.
So, and I totally understand what you're saying. So I think I totally understand. You're saying there's an inherent risk to losing, if you leave the reservation of the traditional practices, you risk losing worship of the creator. Am I hearing that right? Or what
No, I think that you should leave the traditional practices, because if you don't know what you're doing them for, if you're doing them out of obligation, when we say traditional, at least for me, if I think Catholic is very much of like, you do this one thing, you go to hell. You don't pray to God, you confess to a priest, and then he tells you how many Our Fathers and Hail Marys to say. So there's, distance from your relationship with God. So I think leave the traditional practices and strive to understand the gospel, strive to understand the character of God and really why he sent Jesus and why Jesus died on the cross for you and what those commands were. And so when it comes to loving, it's loving in the way that God wanted us to love, and loving God and understanding that he loves us, and making sure that we are worshiping him first and not putting something else above him or next to him.
Yeah. I'm like 15 minutes left. No. I have 15 minutes left. I'm like, no, it would be fun to, like, I haven't set the stage. It's like, how do we know what proper worship of him looks like? How do you know if you're on path or off track?
Well, if we explore this a little bit more, I guess I would be curious as to why we're using the word proper worship. Like, so what is proper for you? And is there a negative connotation with that? Or is it more of a beautiful word for you?
I have found that proper worship equates to a religious dogma. So if I'm preaching a way of worship, I think it'd be hard not to fall into some type of trap of religiosity. But then on the other side, to your point, is like, if you just go on this Wild West adventure of spirituality, is like, what are the rules, right? What is the bounds? What are you bounded by? And so I guess I'm curious how we would, if we were to land the plane, where I would say, like, I think I understand the risk of the risk you're cautioning. What movie's on, by the way? It sounds like a really good movie.
I'm so sorry that you could hear that.
Okay.
It's Frozen 2, and it's what's keeping my 3.5-year-old.
Keep it. No, it's good.
I'm sorry.
It was kind of the right music for the mood, right?
Okay.
But I think, like, you.
It's okay. Finish your thought. Brain dump that thought.
Well, it's like you go. when you properly, I would say, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I'm really stuck on this. Like, I'm really stuck on this idea of right and wrong, good versus
Okay.
evil,
Yeah.
right? So, because that's the original fruit, and it's like, who gets to decide that, and where do we get to decide that from? And it's like, yeah, and like, where
Okay.
do we? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's go back to the rules. Well, let's also pick on the who gets to decide that. God gets to decide that, right? He is our creator. He gets to decide what's right and what's wrong. And so when we talk about the rules of exploring spirituality, and again, this is not me telling anyone what to do. And this is also me knowing I am, have so much still to learn. I mean, we're always learning. Hopefully my confidence in these statements doesn't come across as prideful or arrogant, but rather what I have learned in my own faith practices. So the rules really are, there is no one else besides God, and any practice that takes you away from what Jesus and God is, their character, that is wrong. And so, I mean, there's not a lot of rules of engagement with God. There's not a lot. There's things that he has commanded us to do for our own good, like rest on the seventh day, have a Sabbath. That's good. I mean, if you look at like every psychological experiment, research, whatever, the end results, you could tie it to something in the Bible. Like, we do better with rest. We do better when we are busy. We are less anxious, and our thoughts wander less when we are working hard, and when we, so all of that, there's biblical principles in that. And so really the only way to do right or wrong is to keep it simple, keep it focused on God, and pray about it. Just, God, strengthen my discernment. Is this something that comes from you, or is it not? And that you're not always going to have an answer to that right away. Sometimes you're going to have to pray over that over days, weeks, or months, maybe even years, for something big. But he will always want to keep you close. And if you are trying your best to hear him, then he will do his best to speak to you. And oftentimes it's in whispers, but he will do his best to keep you close to him. And it's up to you to make those choices. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question? Is that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love
Okay.
it. I think the trying to think of how to posit the question in a way. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm no daylight between us, but it's like, so at what point can your spirituality ask questions that your religion can't answer, and what do you listen to? Is it ever okay to leave? Like, and I think you said it's okay to leave the reservation, and I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through a brain teaser, and we'll probably have. And I'm totally down to do this episode too. If this is fun for you, I'd love for you to bring your husband, and you guys should listen to some of the stuff, because you can. I'm not burying the lead very much. I'm not like out there, but it's like, so I'm going to tell you a story, and then you help me understand it. Is
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning there was God, and he created man. And then man made a decision to fall away, but God knew that he was going to fall away, so he was going to send a savior. And then a savior was going to come. A savior was going to come so that everything could be okay. And everything was okay, but it wasn't really okay, because the man needed to wait to die, so then it could really be okay. And also, the savior needs to come back again, because his first visit was insignificant. So, the day that we worship was good, but not good enough, because first you need, like that whole story for me is like when you said do it simply, and I'm like, nah, just love God and love people. Let's forget all of that. Let's forget all of that, because I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
So there's a flaw in that story, in that two things. We're trying to understand the world as if we have the same understanding as God. And it's
Sure.
also saying like Jesus came back so everything would be okay, which is not what Jesus did. I mean, Jesus came back so he could die for our sins, so we could receive God's grace, so that we could be forgiven. He didn't come back so that the world would be okay. And I think sometimes people drift in their faith because they struggle with the concept that we're in a fallen world. We are in a broken world. We are not in an okay world. And they struggle with that, because how could a good God allow certain things to happen, right? Because we don't have the same understanding that God does. And so I think the major flaw in that story is saying, but he came back so everything would be okay, but it wasn't all okay. And what we need to learn from Jesus is really the true character of God, and that he is forgiving and that he is loving, which is hard to see in parts of the Old Testament. That's hard because a lot of the Old Testament is, hey, God tried to fix things. People effed up again, and now things are worse, and now he has to punish them, right? The Old Testament can get depressing, and it's hard to see his loving, gracious character in some of those stories. So that maybe would be my response to that.
And then do you think that Jesus is encouraging and excited that the world is concerned with who's got the right belief? So like, if our job as Christians is to spread the good news and get all Muslims to change, and the Muslims got the same, like, do you think that that is where he would like us to focus our attention?
I think that we are called to be disciples, and we are called to share the good news. I think people have to be wary about how they go about sharing the good news. I think different people are called to share that in different ways and in different places. I think that Jesus would encourage us to continue to do that, and that he would, I don't know if excited is the right term, but would be maybe joyful to see more people believe in him and love him.
I'm resting my case. It's too, I'm like not going to lay a good, like I would probably, and is this fun for you? Do you like talking about this stuff, or would you rather keep the spiritual life to yourself? Okay.
No, we're okay there. I think that I also want to be cognizant of, I'm not going to have all of like the biblical bullet points and like this story and this scripture and this verse to maybe defend some of these arguments. So I think I am trying to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all who's got enough knowledge, right? Maybe Wes Huff. Wes Huff's got Wesley Huff.
Yeah, I'm not Wesley Huff.
He's got all the answers. I want to talk to that man someday. I always say that on here. One day, but what I will do, just because in keeping with, I'm going to put this in both places. So my apologies to the Atomic Construction Squad, because we went and talked about religion, and we'll go carry this on in the better question side of the house. If you're down, it would be fun. It's like, these are fun discussions, and a lot of people, I shouldn't say it. Like, there's my Christian brethren and sisters are like, what do you mean? You're saying the death and resurrection isn't the most important thing ever? Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like that conversation doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds kind of, it sounds kind of religious, but maybe it is. Maybe it's dangerous. It shouldn't be talked about. And I'm not saying I believe in it. I think it's important, but I also think that it has become more important than loving God and the world around us. Right? That has taken precedent.
Maybe we've had a lot of experiences with people that are maybe the Southern bigots, or like there was a sermon, and I remember this. We had a guest preacher, and he had 3 steaks, and I'm a foodie. I love steaks. So the fact that he had these as props, part of me was like, oh my God, like why? Like, why is not someone cooking these up for me? But he had 3 steaks, and he had 1 no salt. You can't even tell that there's any salt, any seasoning, right? So that would represent someone that you don't know they're a Christian. And he's got another steak, and he's dumping salt, so much salt on it. It's ruined, right? So those are the people that they are Christians, but they aren't living a Christ-like life. They are the people that are deterring people from Christ. We're called to be the salt or Jesus is the salt of the world, right? So how do you properly season your steak? How do you show I am a Christian? I am living a Christ-like life. And I will also do that in a way that will not repel you from Jesus, but bring you closer to him. And so we have to also be aware, okay, what experiences have we had with people that are way too salty, and how has that hurt our relationship with God? Yeah,
this would be fun. I'm going to send you an email. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Samantha, thanks for coming on and playing along. This would be fun to get it out to your audience and whatever audience I do have. Any closing remarks from you?
No, thank you for thanks for letting us go in so many different directions. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening. You, the listener, I appreciate you. I think I got to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks, Sam, for being here. Thanks for Pineapple for keeping us rolling. And Yeah, for those of you that are super curious about faith, I hope this prompted something. For those of you that need help getting some structure to your business, I is you, I get it, and you should give Sam a try.